Hello and welcome to this episode of Natter with Neve. And today I have the delightful Bonnie Rychova, and I think I've pronounced her name incorrectly, but with me today. Um, Bonnie is a chronic pain rehabilitation mentor or something. Yeah, on that. Bonnie has a long history of living with pain in various different conditions that has led her to doing what she does today. Welcome, Bonnie.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me here today. So, yes, I know my name is very difficult to pronounce, and I get it, so it's totally fine. So, my surname is Rychova, and I come from the Czech Republic originally, so that's why the different pronunciation, and I guess my ancestors came from somewhere else, not really from Czech, so it's not typical. Check their
Yeah.
name. And yes, I am a rehabilitation specialist, helping people with chronic joint and back pain. So this is what I do.
Yeah. But it's not what you always did. I believe when you first came to the UK, to London, you came in as an au pair.
I came as an au pair because in that time I finished my master's degree at university. I have master's in economics, marketing, and management. So when I finished my university degree, I couldn't find a job in Prague. Surprise, surprise. And in that time, I didn't know English much. I was learning German. I lived in Germany for several months, so my German was really good. But unfortunately, in that time, for some reason, in 2003, English was more required in the field where I wanted to work, something to do with economics or marketing. So I decided one day to basically find an au pair job through an agency and came to London in 2004 as an au pair. Originally for a year maximum, I had a contract with the family, and things went not really right. So we can have a discussion about that. Things were not rosy at all, and things changed a lot. And then I had to make some decisions later on.
Okay. So your main reason for coming to England then was to learn English.
Yes,
So you could
100%.
go back to Prague and
Yeah,
become something in economics
exactly.
or marketing. That's very far away from where you are today.
Completely different, even though if you think about it, that being self-employed is having a business. However, my degree didn't help me at all because things changed rapidly since
Yeah.
2003, and since what I was learning is not applicable to these days at all.
No, I suppose because so much is done online these days as well, isn't it? Um,
100%.
yeah, and the world closed down for a couple of years as well, which probably didn't help matters.
No,
So
things are different.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you decided not to be an au pair anymore.
Well, the family I was working for fired me after, I would say, maybe less than 6 months. Um, so when I was working as an au pair, obviously au pair has some pocket money. In that time, I had to pay for English school, and it was very expensive. So I wanted to earn something on the side to be able basically to save some money to pay for another term of English.
Yeah,
I was quite good student. I managed to do my first um, certificate, called first certificate in English, within several months, like 3, 4 months, which was very good. But then I had to pay for another time to go for advanced English examination.
yeah.
And that cost at that time a lot, a lot.
Mm.
And to be able actually to come to the UK, I basically spent my whole monthly salary from what I was earning in Czech. And I wanted basically to get any part-time job, maybe just few hours cleaning or few hours babysitting. And once the family find out that I am looking for, according to them, for another job, which wasn't the truth, I just was looking for a few hours of something to give me some pocket money, which was in my free time. So when they found out, they basically fired me. They basically asked me to leave from within an hour. I had 1 hour to leave the house and I had
Okay.
nowhere to go.
Wow, that's harsh.
That's harsh. And guess what? I cried and I cried and I cried because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I had nowhere to go. Basically, I would have to go, I don't know, under the bridge. It didn't feel safe to basically go with my huge suitcase in that time on the street. I literally begged them to stay at least overnight. So I was allowed to stay overnight. They let me to leave my huge suitcase in the shed while I was looking for where to stay for a week. I was looking for a week for somewhere to stay.
Yeah. And so were you allowed to stay with them for that week or
No, no,
no?
I
You
had
were
to
out on
go. Yeah, yeah. I had to go the next morning. Basically, I just begged them to stay at least overnight because it was evening. I had nowhere to go, so they let me to stay overnight. And the next day, I had to pack and I had to go. And luckily, I had a really good friend. Surprisingly, not Czech friend. She is Turkish. She's still my best friend, and she helped me a lot. She basically helped to organize to stay over every night in a different household with different au pair because she had lots of friends. She's been au pairing in London for a while, so she had lots of Turkish friends, and she helped me to organize basically to stay overnight in a different I would say houses, rooms, usually secretly. No one knew that I'm staying over.
Yeah.
And that took a week before I found basically place to live and to rent.
Mm. And what were you doing had you found a job at this point?
So I started to look for a job in the office because I had experience working in the office for more than 10 years in that time. Plus, I had, master's degree in economics. It didn't really help me. I couldn't find a job. I remember one time I had about 11 interviews within 2 weeks. I was just going from interview to interview, and I always had the same answer. The answer was either you are overqualified or you are underqualified. It's always the same answer.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there is no anything in the middle. But mind you, in that time, employing someone from Europe wasn't really common.
Yeah.
So it was 2004. Czech Republic just joined European Union, and obviously United Kingdom was in European Union in that time. But having European employees wasn't common in that time. So
Mm.
there was I felt lots of sort of that kind of resistance. So what I did, I had to find any job. So at the beginning, because I have nothing and I knew I have to pay the rent, I paid weekly rent. I found uh, how do you call it? Well, I was washing dishes. It doesn't, there is no name for it. I was washing dishes in Italian coffee shop in Richmond. So if you know Richmond in London,
Yes, I do.
the coffee
Yeah.
shop is
Yeah.
still there. The coffee shop is still there. It's still Italian coffee shop in the same place. And I was washing dishes for 2 weeks and I had to give up because I was absolutely exhausted. So the only thing was I was washing dishes or I was peeling onions and garlic and that was everything what I did for 2 weeks.
Okay. Wow. And from there, from
From
washing dishes.
there, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was absolutely exhausted.
Mm.
And I found nanny job, part-time nanny job, looking after two boys, very sweet
Mm.
boys in the afternoon after school. And then I found a coffee shop job, just making sandwiches, making coffees. So I had two jobs. one was in the morning, the other was in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was doing that for a while, to be honest. I was doing that for several months. I don't know, maybe for 4 months, I guess.
Mm,
And then I find, luckily, at least a job as a sales assistant in Hampton Court. So I was working in a shop in Hampton Court. If you know Hampton Court Palace in London, it's a huge palace, very famous. So I was there over winter as sales
mm.
assistant. And I have to tell you, working in palace in winter, it's not good experience because it's so cold.
I can imagine, yes. They didn't have central heating when those things were built, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I
So
mean,
yeah.
that sounds really hard. I mean, I'm surprised you just didn't give up and just go back home.
And this is the thing. I was thinking about it so many times from that point. Um, every time I had sort of a challenge, I was thinking, why you are not just going to, why you are not going back to comfortable, to known, to, your parents' house. The thing is, since I was 18, I was always going back to my parents' house when things were not going the right direction in my life, either if it was with a boyfriend or with work or something. So I felt in that time as it would be a failure, that I will fail because I said I will learn English, I'll stay in the UK for a year. So I felt as if it would be a failure if I go back.
Yeah.
And I know it's not failure, but it's this feeling that, like, this is what you said you will do. And now when things are going wrong, you just give up. And I think that's sort of something which I always had in myself, like the pride, like, you should not fail. Like, yeah,
We
that
can
was
be
the
so
only
very
reason.
hard on ourselves, can't we?
That's the thing.
Very
I am
self.
very hard on myself. I am a doer.
Mm,
Um, and it comes from the upbringing, to be honest. It comes
mm,
from how I basically was raised or what I saw around me as my parents were always hardworking, always um, providing for the family, but it was always about hard work.
yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, life doesn't always have to be hard work, though. And I think sometimes we set ourselves such high expectations, that actually, a person now looking back, I don't think, if I look at what you were doing, I don't think it would have been a failure to go home. And looking back now, you probably wouldn't have thought the same. I think, though, I think it was incredibly brave and courageous to actually stay and to work two jobs, and then to get yourself another job and to just, and you're still here.
I'm still here, and it was a huge lesson in my life. First of all, I think it was a lesson that actually I can do it. Like I can find a way if I get into huge trouble. And like being on a street, it's it's not a nice experience. There are lots of things which is going, lots of emotions, lots of things going, inside your head. But then you have only one option, like to find somewhere to stay
Yeah.
and to find somehow to support yourself, no matter no matter what is your education, no matter what is your experience. Like you just need to earn money somehow, like doing anything.
Mm.
That was a harsh lesson, but also it showed me that I can support myself, like I can. I will survive, basically. Whatever happens, I will always survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, And I didn't want to stay actually in the UK after the job in Hampton Court, which was seasonal job. So it finished in spring, and I didn't want to carry on, to be honest, with that job. So I was looking for an office job, and I did find eventually an office job, but I had another harsh lessons. But that time my boyfriend who lived in Prague, he wanted to come over and try his luck in the UK.
Mm.
So that was the reason I stayed after this experience. But his decision was taking much longer than I anticipated. So I had to somehow figure out what I'm going to do next when my seasonal job finished. And I
Mm.
started to look for office job. It was a nice experience, as I said, in that time, having someone from Europe as employee and someone who already has experience wasn't common. So I really felt lots of resistance from, I would say, employers because I had like everything what they wanted.
Yeah.
But somehow it had never been good enough or maybe too much. And I have to say, some of the contracts didn't sound good to me. Obviously, I didn't
Mm.
have experience in the UK, but the contracts which I was reading were really, really harsh. And I was like, wow, this is really tough working in the UK. I wasn't used to those sort of contracts. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. If you've been ever working in the UK, you probably know how the contracts look like. So I was really
Yeah.
surprised. And I didn't want to take one of the jobs and I didn't took it, even though it would be probably a good job for me. But the contract didn't sound well. And because I didn't have experience with any other contracts, I've never read any other UK contracts. I was like, no, no, I'm not doing it. And then I was given another offer, but I was running out of my options. I
Yeah.
had to take the job. And then I was like, I should have taken the first one because it looks like this is just how it is. And I was working as a reservations clerk, it was called. So basically, I was working in a travel agency as a data entry
Yeah.
kind of clerk, to be honest. It's called reservations clerk, but I wasn't on the phone at all. I was doing just the data entry. It was like the more you can enter, the more you will earn, that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
it was really, really tough in terms of um, meeting their demands in terms of how many entries I had to do a day.
Yes. I can imagine, yeah, sitting in front of a screen all day trying to, yeah.
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 So yeah, this is what I did. But again, I was unlucky in the job. Um, they fired me, and again, they fired me in a way they knew I'm still in probationary period, and they just basically said, "You have 1 hour to pack your stuff. Bye. We give you references, but you have 1 hour to go." That was so harsh again. I was like, "What's wrong with me?" So I started to really doubt myself
Yeah, I
with
could
this
imagine.
sort of experience.
Mm.
And then I was really beating myself for like, what's wrong with me? Like, again, this is happening again. And then I found out from my colleague later on when I spoke to her that I was covering up for someone who was traveling and the girl was coming back from travels. So I was in probationary period. So it was easy basically to fire me without reasons. And yeah.
So they hadn't been honest with you about the job in the first place, then,
They were
really.
not honest with me. It was on purpose. And yeah, that's really sort of really harsh to experience this from, from employers that they can
Yeah.
do it, fortunately. So yeah, here I was. I was unemployed. Um, and that was really hard because in that time I had all the paperwork in terms of working in the UK and living in the UK because it's been more than a year in that time when
Mm.
I was in the UK. So I was applying for job seekers and I didn't get it. They said I am not allowed, I'm not eligible for job seeker allowance. And I was like, I didn't understand why. I was like, I got all the paperwork, like I did everything what I was supposed to do. I'm here legally. I have everything and I just didn't know what else to do. So I was like, okay, this is it. Like I'm where I was a few months ago. I have to start again and look for a job. And that's what I did. And a few years later, when I was unemployed again, one basically officer in the job center said, this wasn't right and you should have appealed. It was a wrong decision. You had all
Yeah.
the paperwork right. You should have gotten the job seekers allowance. You should have appealed. And it was, I think, 2 or maybe more years after. But I did appeal, even though it was completely, it
Yeah.
didn't matter. I wouldn't get anything back. They won't give you, your money back.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
they wouldn't give you anything. I appealed and they said it was wrong decision.
But of course, if you don't know at the time, you don't know, do you? And
I
probably
didn't know. No one told me that I can appeal. No one really said, it's probably not right. Um, but it was sort of good to know that I was right and they were actually wrong, and I should have
yeah.
gotten the job seeker allowance that time.
Yeah, but that
So
puts you
yeah,
through a whole lot of hardship that you didn't need to be put through.
exactly. And this is the thing. You feel like you were let down by the system because I really, really needed that help. I
Mm.
was unemployed and it wasn't my fault. I was basically fired in probationary period where I knew it was set up. So it's difficult really to feel that way, that you were let down by the employer and they knew, and you were let down by the whole system.
Mm.
So it was really, it
And
just
still you
feels like,
stayed.
yeah, but it just feels like you are alone on your own. Like, okay,
Yeah.
here I am again in the
Mm.
middle of the big country with no job. I need to pay the rent. I need to figure out, I need to find again any job. So at the end, I did find a job and I stayed there for several years. And for the first time, not for the second time in my life, I left that job with my own decision. So uh, I was employed as facilities administrator at Lidl headquarter in Wimbledon.
Mm.
So I worked for Lidl in their headquarter as sort of a secretary to facilities manager for 3 years. So that was a good
Mm.
job. That was a good job. And then eventually I actually moved from the place I rented initially, from that one little tiny room which had nothing, just bed and chest of drawer. I moved to Richmond, which was really nice room in the loft, and I was time to time helping with babysitting. And
Mm.
then I moved to sort of much bigger, nicer room in Wimbledon. So I was sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always lived in a shared sort of accommodation. Um, but I think about the time really, really as kind of positively because I had secure job, I had a full-time job, I had where to stay, I had fairly big room because it had more than a bed. So for me, it was like a win.
Mm.
It was reasonably sized room, and I was happy. I was really happy in that job until another thing happened. It wasn't easy, to be
Mm.
honest, to work in the office in the UK. With that time, my English was much better,
Mm.
obviously. So I did 2 certificates in English to the advanced. I didn't go for proficiency because I felt like I don't really need it. It's just a paper.
Yeah.
Uh, but my level of English was good enough to work in the office. But I have to say, it was very, very challenging for me to be on calls. Like uh, talking on a phone wasn't that easy as talking just normally in the office and doing basically the job I was doing. Uh, um, but again, it was about confidence, a lot about confidence to be
Yeah.
able basically talk my non-native language with managers, with other places in terms of obviously working for little that was communicating with other places within the UK and Scotland. That
Yeah.
was a bit challenging to deal with Scotland because obviously
The
um,
accent. Yes.
the accent was so strong that I often
Yeah.
said to my colleague, you know what, you have to take the call because I just wouldn't know what they are saying, what they want. And
Mm.
then I got used to it. So it was a really good lesson for me as someone who wanted actually to learn English. And that was the reason I came to the UK to
Yeah.
learn English. And this is what I did. I did.
Yeah. You learned
It took
English
me
and
a
a whole lot
while.
more.
It took us struggles, but I actually achieved what I came for. Yep.
Yeah. And you stayed.
And I stayed because eventually my that time boyfriend, now my husband, he came to the UK. He found his dream job. Unfortunately, it was outside London. So I stayed in London. He lived outside London for several years. He's still in the same job for 21 years.
Wow.
While I changed many, many jobs and many, many accommodations within London. Um, so yeah, so that was the reason I stayed. The only reason I stayed is that my husband came over. Now my husband came over, find a job, wanted to stay in the UK. So yeah,
So you
here I
stayed
am.
to be with
I
him
stayed.
then. Yeah.
Yes.
And so when you left Little, what happened then? How did you get into all the Pilates and the rehabilitation
Yeah.
work you do now?
And this is very interesting that I didn't have any fitness knowledge, any experience. I wasn't really a sporty child. I wasn't sporty adult. Um, but in past, as a child, I always remember watching with my parents, especially my mom, ballroom dancing, Latin dancing
Mm.
competitions, um, ice skating. So I really loved watching this sort of very flow movements
Yeah.
always. And I still do, and my mom still does as well. Like if there is a dancing competition in Italy, we both sit and we watch. So still to this date. So when I worked for Little in Wimbledon, I started to go to the gym, local gym, council kind of, leisure center. And one day, I remember it like today. It was Saturday, beautiful morning. It was, I think, autumn. And I decided, okay, I'll try different classes. I've never went to the classes. If I have this membership, I try several classes. So I tried yoga. I tried that kind of yoga, this kind of yoga. And one day I decided to go to Pilates class. And I loved it. And I was like, this feels really good. And I started to chat to the instructor. And I was asking her, like, how do you happen to work as Pilates teacher? And in that time, I didn't have any experience. And she said to me, and that sticked in my head since then, she said to me, you are very natural. Like, I would never ever know that you've never did Pilates. You just followed the whole class and everything looked like you've done it forever. I was like, really?
Wow.
Like, I did what you said, I just followed your instructions and I found it really, really pleasant. And then a few years after, when I left the job, I gave my notice. Things were not really right in the office, and I just didn't want to stay
Mm.
for longer. And I moved in with my that time boyfriend, now husband, to Oxfordshire. And I was looking for a job in Oxfordshire. I couldn't find anything. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, here I am, no job again. Um, I was getting job seekers allowance, but I just couldn't find anything. And I started to think about my life like, okay, what do you want to do? Like, this is not working. Like, you have a master's degrees, and like, the degree was like pointless. We studied for 5 years and nothing is really happening in your life in general. And I was like, I always wanted to work in marketing. I don't know why I wanted to work in marketing. That was in my head. But I didn't realize that marketing industry was very competitive in that time, even more than now. And like getting job in marketing was like, that wouldn't happen in that time.
Yeah.
So one day, this intuition came to my head, absolutely crazy voice in my head said, why don't you do something different? What do you like? It was like Pilates felt really good. Like, what if you do Pilates? And I started to search. In that time, it wasn't that easy to become Pilates teacher. Like there were
Yeah.
no quick qualifications in weekends. There was nothing like that. It was years of study and it was very expensive. So what I decided, yes, I am going to become Pilates teacher, but first I need to get some fitness qualification
Mm.
because there were only two ways how to teach or do Pilates. One way was to enroll on 2 years long course, which
Yeah.
cost several thousands of pounds, which I didn't have in that time, and I just couldn't study for a few years and waiting for a job.
Yeah.
I needed it.
Yeah.
So what I decided to do, I decided to become personal trainer, getting this sort of fitness qualification, get the job. That was my idea. My idea was get personal training qualification that's shorter. It wasn't cheaper, to be honest. I don't know why I did it. I really don't know what I was thinking that time. It wasn't cheaper than the Pilates qualification, but it was faster. So my idea was become a personal trainer, start working as a personal trainer, get some money, and start basically alongside learning Pilates or doing Pilates qualification. That was what I decided to do.
Yeah.
So I did it. But how I did it was I went abroad to do my personal training qualification for 6 weeks, and I put my body and my mental health under really big pressure because, wow, that was so hard. That course was so hard. And I have to say, it's so easy these days to get personal training qualification over the weekend. And apparently, during COVID, it was even easier because you even didn't have to see a client. You didn't even have to do case study.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So that's
And
what
would
I
we
had
trust those
from
personal
personal
trainers?
trainers. That's what I had from personal trainers who did qualifications in COVID. It was super easy.
Mm.
And obviously it was cheaper as well because
Yeah.
it was, um, providers wanted to earn money, so it was easy to just give you qualifications. So I went abroad for 6 weeks. It was really hard because we had to do theory tests every single week. We had to pass 85% in the theory and we had to do practicals as well.
Mm.
So I had zero experience in sport or fitness.
You really
That
like to
was
set
hard.
yourself challenges, don't you?
Yes. So this was hard physically, but also mentally. So it was really, really tough. And I learned lots of other lessons during that time. And I also learned many lessons with difficult clients in that time because not only it was difficult as it was, I was given the most difficult client to train in order to pass my certification. And later I was told by the examiners that I was the only one who's got the most difficult client, and I should expect from now on things to be much easier because I went through the hardest already. Which was true. I have to say, it was true. I've never got that difficult client as I had during these times. So it was true. I got difficult clients, but not that difficult.
Yeah. So you learned
So
the
this is
hard
what
way.
happened. This is what happened. I came back. I moved back to London, actually, from Oxfordshire. I was self-employed, doing personal training, self-employed for a year. Then I started to study Pilates, and I got an offer for being employed personal trainer in one of the most expensive private leisure clubs in London. And I did it for 3 years.
Okay.
And
Wow.
then I got my Pilates network qualification. And again, things were kind of good for about 3 years. I've got always the 3 year
You see.
period in my life. I don't know why, but things are always good for 3 years before something else happens, or it leads to something else happening in my
Yeah.
life. So yeah, this is how I got to do sort of what I'm doing now,
So
the
what you're doing.
transition from
Yeah.
office based work to health and fitness based work.
Yeah. Sounds like quite a journey and quite a challenge. I think a lot of people would have probably given up and gone home.
I guess, yes, if I don't know, I think it's a lot about the way of thinking. Like, if you start really doubting yourself and if you start really feeling like this is happening to me or not for me, then yes.
Mm. Yeah.
But if you already went through some challenging times, then you probably start thinking about that another challenge as, okay, this is another challenge. I just need to figure out how I go through this challenge. And this is what I always did without even realizing. I was always thinking more, okay, this is the challenge. How do I go through this? Like, how do I get out of this? And I always do this in my life, whatever challenge comes. I'm always thinking, how do I go through it rather than how I avoid it. But I
Yeah.
have to say, in past, I did try to avoid challenges many times. Before I came to the UK, I was many times avoiding certain challenges.
And I guess I mean that does take a certain kind of mindset as well. And I think a lot of us try and run away from our challenges. And I suppose because you were over here in the UK and you were on your own, you didn't
It
have
is
anywhere to
different.
really run to, did you? Unless you tucked
Exactly.
your tail between your legs and ran back home, and you were determined not to
Exactly.
do that.
I think I would probably do if I was to have someone or if I was to be in my home country. I think I would run back home several times. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I didn't have options. I didn't have option.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when and I think we probably always have options because you probably could have gone home if you'd
I
really wanted to.
I was thinking about it, but obviously there was always this option.
Mm.
But again, I think I felt like if I was to come home to my parents' house, I would feel probably as failure
Yeah. And that,
and probably like, okay, here I am, save me. I messed up again. Um, so yes, I think there is still that sort of feeling like a failure
yeah.
if I
And I
was to
suppose
come
in
back
some ways
home.
that's kind of driven you to where you are now, to kind of running your own business and everything. Um, and I've seen some of the stuff that you put out online and the way you work with people and their posture and their pain um, is just absolutely amazing. When you think back that actually you could have just, you know, run home with your tail between your legs, taken on any old job when you got home, and we would be without you in the world, teaching us how we should be standing and how we should be using our feet and all the other wonderful things you teach us.
That's absolutely true. If I think about it, and I did think about it many, many times, like, was this must have been a calling. Because if I think about that, my decision about becoming Pilates teacher, there was zero reason. There was zero when it comes. like, why would I do it? Because I had zero experience. I've actually experienced one nice Pilates class. I haven't been going to Pilates for years or
Yeah.
practicing. But it felt like the right thing to do. And because I didn't have anything else what I could do, I went for it because I didn't have any other option. There was no other option. There was either carry on searching for a job or try something different. There were only two options, and I decided to go for this one. Um, so I still think about this as answering universe call, like,
Yeah.
you know, the voice in my head. But it wasn't easy. It was an easy,
Mm.
actually, journey. It wasn't like I became a Pilates teacher the next day and everything else was very easy.
Yeah.
Um, Doing personal training was really hard because I was self-employed. I was working any hours. I was in a
Mm.
gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I may have a one client only. And
Yeah.
then I would be waiting for the middle of the day to have another client over lunchtime. And then I would wait another few hours to have a client early afternoon. And then I would wait another few hours to have an evening client. And this was
Yeah.
like a year forward back, just doing any hours, any time. But to be honest, in that time I was pretty fit. So it was good experience for me. I felt
Yeah.
good. I felt really good in my body. I was the fittest I was in my life. And I was in my 30s. I was quite strong and yeah, in a good shape. So it was good experience. But in that time, when I think about it back then, again, it was really answering a call from universe because the personal training experience taught me how the fitness industry works. Because
Yeah.
if I didn't know how the fitness industry work, doing what I'm doing now, I would look at things from different perspective. But because I went through how the fitness works, I know how personal trainers work. I know
Yeah.
what they do. I know what they were trained to do. I know their way of thinking. But also, I know the Pilates way of thinking because Pilates is often recommended as rehab-based work. Like physiotherapists very often prescribe Pilates exercises as a part of the rehab.
Yeah.
I know how Pilates teachers think and work, how they are trained. And when I started working in fitness and when I had the employed personal training job, in that time I started to have issues with my own body. In that time, again, I was hard on myself. I didn't want to fail, so I was doing all the work.
I
And
can
unfortunately,
imagine.
I was overworking, I was overtraining my body. I was working out after my shift or before my shift. I wasn't used to doing shift work. That was another thing which was new in my life. And in that time, I was in my mid 30s. So I wasn't really young.
Yeah.
I was the oldest woman, I would say, on the gym floor. There was only one, maybe same age man. Everyone else was much younger. So it started to be really demanding on my own body. And because I was studying Pilates, I was also practicing and I had to do certain hours. So
Mm.
it was kind of full-on job, I would say. And many people, I think, don't realize that if you are working in fitness, um, you are on your feet all day long.
Yeah.
And if you are employed, many times you are not allowed to sit down. You have to be on your feet, walking around the gym floor the whole day, the whole shift. So it was demanding, and I started to have aches and pains in my body, but actually I didn't realize that because I had some injuries in past, they just flared
Yeah.
up. They just showed up because I was overusing my body. So what
Yeah.
I wouldn't normally probably feel if I was to work in the office, I wouldn't know. because I would just work in the office. I wouldn't really put my body under demand. But when I started to do personal training, those things flared up, and I started to have quite major issues with hip pain, back pain. Then the pain started to travel through my body, and I wasn't in a good place mentally and physically at all. So yeah, that led me to what I'm doing now
Yeah. Yeah.
later on, because it led me to the decision later on, years later, when I was already qualified Pilates teacher and I already had 4 years of personal training experience. I decided in that point, and I was thinking about it for a year. When I started to really struggle with my own body, I decided to do extra qualification, and I didn't plan another qualification. I had already enough. I decided to become rehabilitation Pilates teacher, which was another qualification on equipment. So using all large, we call it large Pilates equipment.
Yeah. Okay, you have frozen on me.
And to be trained. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the internet connection is a little bit unstable. So I became a rehab Pilates teacher and I left the gym environment forever. After 3 years, I left the employed personal training job and I just was focusing on rehabilitation Pilates. And in lockdown, I got another bunch of certifications. And in the last 12 months, again, I got other certifications because I wanted to go much deeper. I always knew there is more. So I
Yeah.
decided to specifically concentrate on working with people who suffer from chronic joint and back pain because this is what I went through and I know how it feels. And I always knew what is a better way how to tackle uh, pain and conditions where usually the physiotherapy and the conventional healthcare didn't work 100%. So this is what I'm doing now and how I got to where I got. It
And
took a lifetime, to be honest. It took from 2003 when I made the decision going to the UK to learn English. That was 2003. I made a decision. 2004, I came to the UK, and here I am in 2025 doing what I am doing and leaving my master's degrees in economics behind completely.
yeah, but surviving so many challenges as well, getting through all of that to be where you are today is just absolutely amazing.
The challenges were harsh, but they were probably there for a reason. I didn't mention in London, it wasn't that easy. I moved 14 times in London. I changed 14 different shared rooms and accommodations. There was always something not right in the accommodation I was staying. I always had to leave for whatever reason. So that
I
was
think that's
quite
just London
challenging.
living though, because I think in my first 8 years here, I lived in 7 different places as well.
Yeah.
Because either people would sell the place you were living in
Yep.
or they would throw you out because their
Yes.
aunts, uncles, best friends, niece from wherever wanted a room, and so you got chucked out, and you just think, okay. So yeah, I think a lot of that is just kind of that London living. I think it's settled a bit now, but I think it's just everything's just so expensive now as well here. But yeah, but we are well over time. That was absolutely fascinating listening to you, Bonnie. The sheer dedication and determination you have, and to do, you are helping so many people now, and it's just wonderful, to hear your story and hear everything that you have overcome to get to where you are today is just amazing and truly inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I am going to leave Bonnie's details down below. If you do nothing else, you need to follow her on Facebook because the stuff she puts out there about how to look after your body and the things you should be doing is just amazing for that alone. And of course, if you want a conversation with her as well, her details will be there. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for joining us today.
You are welcome, and I know my story is quite long, might be inspiring for some of you, but this is life, and I think we always have to think how we go through the challenges rather than thinking this is never going to stop, because the only way how is to go through it is to go through it, to think forward. What is it I can actually do right now?
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And I will see you on the next one.